We got 7 that time. But I love how that's a Virgo new moon song from the great Eric Deutsch, a project that we have together, Song of the Soul, where we create songs based on birth charts, or in that case, a chart for the Virgo new moon of 2022. And you can hear all of our moon songs for this year of 2022, the calendar year of 2022, and 13 new moons. And so we made an album called the 13 Moons of 2022, which you can find at GeminiBrett.com. Just head down to this link, Moon Songs, and click here, and that will take you to Eric's Bandcamp page, where you can also hear his amazing albums of original music in the studio and live. Eric's quite a player. You can also, by the way, order a Song of the Soul for you or for a loved one at my Astrology Sessions tab at my page. So head over there and check out Song of the Soul. You can book readings with me or a mentorship package if you'd like to study individually. There's also some public courses if you'd like to get involved there. Maybe I'll talk more about that later, but I'm here to address this great question. What in the heavens is the Zodiac? And, this is a tricky question. I found perhaps asking what in the heavens is the Zodiac is asking a question that has our gaze, directed towards the wrong place. So let me share a bunch of pretty pictures with you from my sacred astronomy courses and from the School of Earth Astrology, and we will address this question together. And then maybe even find some time to peer through another questions window, which is, what is the astronomy of the whole sign house system? So that will get maybe a little bit more particularly astrological, but maybe not. I guess I should start with saying, hi, I'm Gemini Brett, and it's a bad hair day, but what a great day to tune in to the mysteries together on this Friday, Venus's day, with Venus in the last day of her out-of-bounds travel through the sign of Sagittarius, a place that inspires us to seek truth. What is the truth of the Zodiac? What in the heavens is the Zodiac, friends? This question has been a problem for millennia. Or this problem has been a question for millennia. And here on the screen, I'm showing actually 3 different zodiacs, 3 of the popular zodiacal philosophies or cosmologies. Surrounding the golden circle in the center of the screen, you will find the 12 constellations of the zodiac. What makes those constellations special, what sets them aside from the others in the heavens, is that they host the travel of the sun, right? This is called the ecliptic plane, and really it is the plane that is described each year as Earth orbits the sun. However, from Earth's point of view, we see the sun going about us and doing so on this year plane, the ecliptic. And because our solar system is relatively flat, the other planets hang out there. I mean, they're not confined to the ecliptic plane as the sun is. The ecliptic in our earthly sky is the path of the sun alone. Like the moon will snake above and below the sun's path every month, crossing at the lunar nodes, which is why we call them the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. And there's so much serpent and dragon symbolism with eclipses, right? Because the moon snakes above and below the path of the sun every month. Jupiter does so every 12 years, right? So the ecliptic is so essential, and these zodiacal constellations are so essential because they host the path of the sun and for the most part the planets. And that's more of a visible thing, right? Like we can never see what stars the sun is aligned to. We will go blind trying, right? But we could watch the moon moving against the backdrop of the stars, which is why the oldest zodiacs are more lunar based, lunar mansions, nakshatras and such. The 12 sign Zodiac was created to honor the golden year, the year of the seasons, Earth about the sun. Now, we can say that there is this constellation of Zodiac. It is described by the 12 constellations that embrace the ecliptic plane. And one of the main arguments that astronomers of our day and age and others like sidereal astrologers often stake in their attempts to prove the tropical zodiac fake or at least not astronomical is that the tropical signs, which are shown on the inside of this diagram in blue and described by the glyphs that we use to depict the sign in our day and age, they do not align to the constellations, right? So look at tropical Sagittarius here, which by the way is an image of Earth's tilt. Okay, it's in our day and age aligned to the heavenly Scorpion. So what madness is this? Oh, first, before we address that, look to this outer ring, okay, in purple with the sign spelled out in letters like Scorpio. These are sidereal signs. These are the three different very popular zodiacal cosmologies. One is constellational, okay? Simply the 12 constellations that embrace the ecliptic plane and therefore, in Earth's point of view, host the travel of the sun throughout the course of the year. An issue, however, is that the constellations that embrace the ecliptic, the zodiac constellations, vary significantly in size. The priestess here, who the astronomers call Virgo, but I like to differentiate constellations and signs because they are very different things. The priestess of the heavens describes like 47 degrees of ecliptic arc. Well, the mighty ram, only about 15 degrees. And of course, 15 degrees is half of a 12th part. What is a 12th part? Well, that's when we divide this ecliptic plane equally into 12 slices. 12 slices of 30 degrees each, right? Because the ecliptic is a circle. Circles have 360 degrees. Divide that by 12, 30 degrees per sign if you're speaking about an equal 12th part zodiac. And now there's two different images here of different zodiacal cosmologies. In the purple is a sidereal 12th part zodiac. Sidereal means of the stars. This particular sidereal zodiac is aligned in such a way that 0 degrees tropical Libra is with Chitra or Spica or Spica, the shaft of wheat that the priestess of the heavens holds. This is a very popular correlation of a sidereal zodiac with the heavens, right? So sidereal 12th part zodiacs of the stars, you have to pick a star and configure your zodiac to that. And then you just divide the ecliptic in 12 equal parts from that. So that's these purple slices, okay? But which star do you choose? It's arbitrary. In fact, there's many different, what are known in astrology as ayam namshas, like different ideas of where that ecliptic should start, like where your 0 point is, if you will. There's no debate about that in the tropical zodiac, which, my friends, is aligned to the cardinal directions of the Earth. Those cardinal directions themselves are defined by Gaia's spine, or the world tree, as I like to describe Earth's lean. Our axis of rotation, the daily axis, the rotational pole, defines north and south. And in every moment forever, the Earth is leaning north towards what tropical astrology calls the cardinal cusp of 0 degrees tropical Cancer. It's like literally just the point on the ecliptic that Earth is always leaning. Okay, so that's why you see north here, This is the North Pole leaning down towards 0 degrees tropical Cancer. Think about this. Constellations themselves are arbitrary. Like, who gets to connect the dots? And in fact, they've been connected in different ways throughout time and places, right? And another interesting truth is, while stars are celestial, constellations are terrestrial. What does Orion look like from Betelgeuse, which is the star of Orion's shoulder? That's Earth view, or maybe our solar system's point of view, right? Like, Orion's not going to see Orion. Yeah. So the constellations are very terrestrial, and they're also arbitrary. Again, who gets to pick the lines? In fact, the way that the constellations were kind of redivided in 1929 by the International Astronomical Union, which is like the principal basis that of constellational boundaries that are used today, including by astrologers, though the IAU is vehemently and outspokenly against the idea of astrology. Like, that's where this whole 13th sign of Ophiuchus and stuff, that evil seed was planted. I mean, they say that one of the brightest stars of our sky, Antares, the heart of the Scorpion, which is only 5 degrees away from the ecliptic, doesn't belong on the ecliptic, and this star way up here does. Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so constellations themselves are arbitrary. And sidereal zodiac, well, it's a beautiful thing to just say, okay, let's divide this into 12 equal slices, because though the speed of the Earth in our orbit about the sun actually does change throughout the year, we are closest to the sun in January and furthest away in July in our day and age. And when we're closer, we're faster. When we're further away, we're slower. Okay, the way that we experience that on Earth is that the sun moves fastest along its path in January and slowest in July. But the variation in the speed is very slight. Basically, we say in astrology that the sun moves 1 degree per day. That's just taking the 360-degree circle and dividing it by the 365 and a fraction of days in a solar year, golden year. So you get about 1 degree per day. Yeah. The average time, actually, if you take the year, 365.2422 days, and divide that by 12, you'll see that the average time it takes for the sun to move through one of these 12th part signs of space, right, divisions of space, that the sun moves on average through a 30-degree sign in 30.44 days. And that's why this solar calendar, which is so popular these days, the Gregorian calendar, once the Julian calendar, it alternates typically between months of 30 and 31 days to keep that 30.44 pace. You know, people feel that calendar has nothing to do with astronomy at all. They're just not studying the astronomy. And these who would say that the tropical zodiac has no astronomical basis because the tropical signs do not align to the constellations as they used to, and indeed because the constellations vary significantly in size, it never truly can. You can't have a 12 equal part zodiac aligned to the constellations. This is true for the sidereal zodiac too. There's a lot of sidereal astrologers who claim that their zodiac is constellational. No, it's not. Because you cannot have 30-degree signs aligned to constellations which vary in size. So from 47 degrees of arc to only 15. And you can see that very clearly in this particular of many I am Nanchas, because again, like, which star do you start with in a sidereal zodiac? It's really quite arbitrary, right? But in this particular one, which aligns 0 degrees sidereal Libra to Chitra or Spica, the shaft of wheat that the priestess of the heavens holds, you'll see that most of Libra is priestess foot, right? And then some of the scales, but not all of the scales. You know, we used to call these two stars, which are Zubin el-Janubi and Zubin el-Shamali, the claws. That they mean the southern and northern claws. The claws of what? The scorpion. Right? So the Scorpion's holding the scales, which is in sidereal Libra. Now you will see sidereal Scorpio hosts most of the Scorpion, but not all. The tail's over here in Sagittarius, which hosts most of the Archer, but not all. You get some Archer rump in the Capricorn, which also has some water bearer arm, and right? You get some fish's head in sidereal Aquarius if you're aligning such that 0 Libra is equal to Spica. The fishes are in sidereal Pisces, but also one, and actually the brighter stars, I shouldn't say that, but a whole fish is in Aries, right? The bull has a pretty good bull equals bull alignment. The twins are pretty clear, but look at the lion's head is in sidereal Cancer if you align 0 degree sidereal Libra to Spica, Chitra. And again, that's arbitrary. I mean, you could start with 0 Libra at the star of the scales and everything would shift, right? So the tropical zodiac is actually, I will argue, the most astronomical of these 3 cosmologies: constellational zodiac, sidereal zodiac, tropical zodiac. Why? Because it is in no way arbitrary. It is aligned to Gaia's spine, the sword of our stone, the world tree, our rotational pole, which defines the directions north and south. Okay, and we measure the placement of the planets and the signs not from the surface of the earth where we live and breathe and can witness the heavenly happenings, but rather from the center of the earth where we are all one. And from the center of the earth, there is a north, right? North Pole, there is a south. And therefore, from the center of the earth, there is also an east and a west. That's a strange thing because east in this moment, like what's rising in this moment in New York, a few hours of spin ahead from where I sit in California, is different than what I'm experiencing here. Like east and west, they're very like local phenomena, right? North and south, it's still, if I walk towards North Star, I'm going to eventually get to the North Pole. I'll need a boat and a coat, you know? If I walk south, I will eventually get to the South Pole of Earth. East and west, I'm just going round and around, and it's a very local thing. However, we're talking about the center of the earth where we are all connected, and I think we might need to take a journey to the center of the earth to answer this question: what in the heavens is the zodiac? Because when we're talking about the earth zodiac, the tropical zodiac, I think we might find the answer to that question is right below our feet. Let's go back in time before we travel into unknown space, and I'm going to read from The Phenomena by Geminos, who was a Hellenistic astronomer from a couple thousand years ago. Geminos says, the word sign is used in 2 ways. According to one way, it is a 12th part of the zodiac circle. That is, a certain interval of space demarcated by stars or points. According to the other way, it is an image formed from the stars based on resemblance in the position of the stars. Thus, the 12th parts are equal in size. But the constellation signs are not equal in size, nor are they formed from equal numbers of stars, nor do they all exactly fill the spaces assigned to the 12th parts. Rather, some fall short, such as Cancer, for it occupies only a small part of its assigned space. Others, such as Leo, spill over and occupy a certain part of the preceding and following signs. This issue is not new. And in the Hellenistic time, most of the astrologers were actually working with the sidereal zodiac, or many were working with 2. We're trying to kind of sort out this difference between tropical and sidereal, and eventually, at that time, Hipparchus had the revelation of precession of the equinox, which is the 3rd motion of Earth. The first is the rotation, our day, right? Earth spins from the west to the east. This is called the primary motion. Our primary experience on Earth is that spinning of the sky, rising in the east and setting in the west. The secondary motion is the orbital motion, right? And we experience that motion as the sun moving through the constellations, moving through the signs, which are different things. And we also have a seasonal experience. So some argue that the tropical zodiac, though it is not constellational, it is seasonal. And it is, but if we say it's defined by the nature of the seasons, like many will teach that the sun rules Leo because Leo is the hottest time of the year, we'll tell that to somebody in Brazil, where Leo month, or Sunth, as I like to say, in golden time, is the middle of winter, right? So that's not going to work. And even deal with the truth that if you stay in one hemisphere, the middle of summer in London is a very different story than the middle of summer in Hawaii. Honolulu. I mean, the middle of winter would be even more of an extreme example for us to share, and the difference between, tropical and temperate, or like Arctic, right? So it cannot be seasonally defined. And I have much faith in many of my dear friends who are astrological practitioners in the Southern Hemisphere, who sit with many Southern Hemisphere clients and see that the tropical zodiac works for them without having to reconfigure and say, oh, no, like Leo is now going to be in January, February, or whatever, in the middle of summer. No, we find that this thing works. Why? Because it is aligned to Gaia's spine, and north is north everywhere on Earth. Unless you're at the North Pole, where north is nowhere and everywhere is south. but besides that one place, north is that way. And a very important truth to the mysteries is this: the Earth, because our entire solar system, because the sun is moving Earth north through space. I think I should leave that there today because we have a lot of other places to go. All right. So this is an old question. What is a constellation sign versus a 12th part sign? And I believe that the sidereal zodiacs were us basically seeing these things in the heavens. Like, that's sidereal. Right? You're not going to see moon aligned to the heart of the scorpion and have some idea that in our day and age, that means, like, I can visibly see that's the moon in Sagittarius, right? This is the heart of the scorpion. This is a tropical zodiac placed against the constellations for this time. I think I did this for 2020 specifically. But precession is a very long thing, which reminds me, I wanted to talk about the third motion of Earth, so let me get back to that. But, if I see the moon here, I have to know that in our day and age, Antares, the heart of the scorpion, is aligned to 10 degrees tropical Sagittarius. And any siderealist will look at that and say, how the heavens would you call that moon aligned to the heart of the scorpion Sagittarius? Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, and they seem to have a point, but I will tell you that the tropical zodiac is something I believe that exists beneath our feet. Okay, the third motion of Earth. So the first motion, our daily rotation, the primary motion, bringing the spinning of the sky and the houses of your local experience, right? The planets climbing from the eastern horizon to the midheaven, and then sinking from there down to the descendant in the west, and then going down beneath your local ground. Okay, these are the planets through the houses. That's an experience of the daily motion, the primary motion, Earth's spin. The planets through the signs, at least the sun through the signs, is an experience of Earth's secondary motion, our annual orbit of the sun. Right? We could say the secondary motion is orbital motion, but the moon gets around the zodiac every month, right? And the Jupiter in 12 years, Saturn in about 29 and a half, right? But either way, when we're experiencing Earth's motions with the sun, sunrise, reach, rest, and root, that is our earthly experience of our daily rotation, the primary motion. Sun moving through the signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, or through the constellations, Ram, Bull, Twins. That is an experience of a season of our secondary motion, our orbit of the sun, okay? The tertiary motion, the third motion, they teach is this wobbling of Earth's axis. And I think, I should go this way, because our primary motion is west to east. Our secondary motion is from the west to the east. Our tertiary motion is this circle that our pole, right, the rotational axis, which defines the cardinal directions of Earth, it shifts not on Earth, but where it is pointed in the heavens. Most astronomers are teaching Newton's theory, which is that the gravitational effects of the heavenly bodies, especially the sun and the moon, are pulling on Earth's equatorial bulge, in such a way that it creates this wobbling effect. There's some serious issue with that math. There's some other theories that are mostly just shunned about why this precessional thing might happen. But one thing we know, it is true that it is happening, and this is what shifts the cardinal directions through the heavens, and as north and south move, will so do global east and west. And this creates a phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes, where the east point, that tropical Pisces Aries cusp, is going to precess or move backwards through the constellations of the zodiac, through the sidereal signs, which creates the experience of the astrological ages. All right, they'll say like where this east point is aligned, perhaps the constellations. So we're currently in the age of the fish, the age of Pisces, perhaps the sidereal signs. That whole thing is kind of arbitrary too. I will tell you the most important thing happening in our day and age is too often, well, not ignored, just not known by star seekers, is that the pole of the Earth, south-north, is now aligned to the galactic core, the galactic crosses. And I think that's a tale for another time. Something I speak about very often, something that's right at the heart of the shamanic astrology mystery school, now the Turning of Ages mystery school, which is where I began my astrological study. Though I was tuned into that well before, thanks to great teachers like John Major Jenkins. All right. So let's explore this question of what is the tropical zodiac? What in the heavens is the tropical zodiac? This idea of precession has long been known. When Ptolemy, the Hellenistic astrologer, came around, he devoted himself exclusively to the tropical zodiac, right? Though many of his contemporaries and certainly Hellenistic astrologers that preceded Ptolemy were working with sidereal zodiacs and tropical zodiacs. There was a lot of confusion of like, well, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans were doing this, but now it looks more like this, right? They were trying to get after this problem. The Greeks knew about precession since Hipparchus, and it seems that precession was probably well known by some ancient civilizations before them, but how can we know? That's a mystery. Well, we're going to go into deeper mysteries than that. We're going to travel to a place so far beneath our feet. It's a place we can never see, so I'll just let you know right now. I want to offer many of these like very obvious, apparent earth-astronomical realities. The tropical zodiac is an absolute astronomical device, right? These signs, which by the way, the glyphs that we use to depict the signs in our day and age are all descriptions of tropical astronomy, right? So like Sagittarius glyph, again, that's just Earth's tilt in respect to the ecliptic plane. The tropical zodiac is really all about the interface of the planes of day and year. The plane of our day, of our rotational motion, is Earth's equator. We project that into space, the celestial equator. That's the primary motion. The plane of our orbit, our secondary motion, is the ecliptic plane. The tropical zodiac, by the way, the ecliptic, passes through the tropics of Earth. Okay, like when the spine of Gaia, the northern side, is leaning towards the light, right? We call that Cancer solstice in tropical astronomy, tropical astrology, or you could call it June solstice, summer solstice for the northern hemisphere because we're leaning towards the light, winter solstice for the southern hemisphere, which is leaning away. When the Earth experiences the sun ingressing tropical Cancer, it shines directly above the Tropic of Cancer. And when the Earth experiences the sun ingressing tropical Capricorn, it shines directly above the Tropic of Capricorn. At the equinox signs, 0 Aries or 0 Libra, the sun is directly above Earth's equator. It is bound by the tropics. The tropikos is Greek for turnaround, because every 6 months, the sun will move from its northern extreme, the Tropic of Cancer, south to the Tropic of Capricorn at the southern extreme and come back up. We'll see an image later, an animation I made to help show you that. In this geocentric, Earth-centered image, which of course is not to scale, right? But it's showing that we have these two planes because of Earth's tilt axis, which in our day and age is about 23.5 degrees, or the tilt of Earth's axis, the pole of our daily motion, right, in respect to our orbital plane, or the plane of our daily motion equator in respect to the orbital motion ecliptic. In our day and age, that tilt angle is like 23.4 degrees. We usually say 23.5. That's what's shown on your screen. And where the plane of the ecliptic most diverges from the equator, in its greatest what we call declination, either north of the equator or south of the equator, those are the solstices. Where they intersect are the equinox points. So I'll show the cusps of the cardinal signs in the tropical zodiac. This is tropical astronomy, the very real tropical astronomy. It's very astronomical. It is earth-astronomical. The fact that astronomers like argue against the validity of this zodiac's astronomy is, to me, just entirely shocking. It's like they're ignoring such simple, beautiful, elegant astronomy. All right, so the equinox points are where the planes of day and year cross. These solstice points are where they most diverge. Cancer most north, Capricorn most south. We're used to seeing this thing kind of tilted in this way so that we align to the ecliptic plane, and then you can see that 23.5-ish degree of Earth's tilt, like the globes in your classrooms and whatnot. And yes, it's round. Anyway, this is the very real astronomy of the tropical zodiac. The question is, how do we get from these very real 4 astronomical points, equinox and solstice points, to 12 signs? But before we go there, let me just offer this. Saturn has a tropical zodiac too. Saturn spins, so Saturn has a plane of rotation. Quite easy to see when observing Saturn because there's equatorial rings and they're huge, right? Saturn has an orbital path. Saturn orbits the sun. Saturn has seasons, right? Saturn has an ecliptic. And so Saturn has crossing points for equator and ecliptic. Saturn has solstice points where the ecliptic most diverges from the equator. I'd have to update that 23.5 to 26.7 because that's Saturn's tilt angle. Now, some of the planets like Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, they're not really tilted at all. Like Mercury's not. And so what kind of zodiac's happening there? Mars, much like Earth, 25-degree tilt, right? Neptune, 28, Saturn, 27. Uranus is this freaky thing where like the pole's kind of pointing at the sun and it's like rolling sideways as it orbits, right? But my argument would be that every planet, every spinning, orbiting thing, which includes, by the way, the sun, has its own 12-sign tropical zodiac. But why 12? Like, how can we get from these equinox and solstice points, right? Just again, like either the equinox points where the planes of day and year cross, or the solstice points where they most diverge. How can we get from those very real, 4 very real, undeniable, 4 very real points of astronomy, of Saturn astronomy or Earth astronomy, to 12 signs? So this is where we have to get a bit more mystical. And I believe our sister sciences of astronomy, sister sciences of harmony and geometry, maybe do a better job of describing why I like to say, well, creation creates in 12s. Right, maybe I wasn't playing well in tune, but basically the 12 half steps of a Western harmonic octave, the 12 signs, oh, diminished fourths are the modalities, the augmented triads are the elements, the whole tone scales are the polarities. And, I start speaking musical harmony, and it's like, what are you talking about? But in geometry, which is number in space, perhaps it's easier to see in this beautiful device that we often call the seed of life. Simply 6 circles of the same radius woven about an inner circle. That inner circle we could see as the ecliptic. And then these 6 other circles you can see here, especially when we make an octave circle around them, produce 2 6-petaled flowers, shown here in silver, right? So the nocturnal signs, which are the earth and water signs of, well, Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. And then in gold on the outside, so inner signs and outer signs, we see, Aries and Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. Okay, so the seed of life very clearly helps us see that creation creates in 12s. And Western harmony, we can find that in the 12 half steps of a musical octave. There's some issues there, and you can explore that by looking into like Pythagorean tuning versus, equal temperament, for example. But we can actually hear 12ness. There's a very natural reason why that's at the root of Western harmony. We can certainly see it in the geometry. Creation creates in 12s, and we try to explore this astronomically. And probably why 12 sign zodiacs were first designed is because of the 3 parts of the philosophy of the whole world: spirit, soul, and matter, sun, moon, and earth. Here on earth, we see, or don't see, moon meet sun about 12 times a year. Some say there's 13 new moons in a year, and it depends on where you decide to start your calendar year and which year you're talking about. Every 3rd year there's 13, usually there's 12, because there's actually 12.37 new moons in a year's time. It causes some issues. That's not 12, it's not 13, it's closer to 12. It's challenging. We don't see in the astronomical expression of 12ness the clarity of examples that we find in the geometry, for example. These 2 6s to make the 12 sign zodiac. I'm going to see this in the mysteries of the regular hexagon, okay? The side length of a regular hexagon is equivalent to the length of a radius of a circle that will inscribe that regular hexagon. Okay, regular hexagon is any 6-sided polygon where each side is the same length, and that length is equal to the radius of a circle that inscribes it. So what? Well, I'll just say that the hexagon is like the line, the measurable things, closest approach to the perfect form, the goddess, the heavenly form, which is the circle or the sphere. But, measuring is also a beautiful truth, and ask the honeybees, ask the queen about the hexagon. It's a pretty amazing device. It is, however, the line's closest attempt to circle, for the reason shown on your screen. I'm today astronomically, geometrically, barely musically, describing kind of advanced concepts in my courses. We take it from the bottom and build slowly up into these things, but we have to, I find, explore our sister sciences of number in time, harmony, number in space, geometry, if we really want to find the answers to the riddles of number in time and space, which is astronomy. We need to know something about number itself to do so. And exploring some of these geometric and harmonic mysteries, like the mysteries of the 5 elements aligned with the so-called 5 platonic solids and whatnot, will help us get to this question: what in the heavens is the zodiac? Well, this image here and images like it have really opened my understanding of something I will never see. And so that really is faith, right? A belief in something I'll never truly see. Maybe I find some evidence for this that beckons me in, but I don't know that I will ever find the truth that, well, every planet has a crystal hexagonal core. I do see in Saturn, and we have seen since Voyager first passed, I think it was in 1979, that Saturn has this regular hexagon at its north pole that's literally 3 Earth diameters in diameter. It's huge, and it seems to be aligned to the cardinal directions. And that Saturn, in a sense, spinning about. Like the astronomers call it this mysterious storm. Jupiter, our other gas giant, even gianter than Saturn, at the South Pole, has this irregular hexagonal figure. What is this? I believe that Jupiter and Saturn, these gas giants, just so happen to be made of the right stuff, that they have surface expressions of their hexagonal crystal core. And it's not just Saturn and Jupiter and their hexagonal images of these so-called storms that brings me there. It is science like this. Now, I will say, like, if you look at that URL at the bottom of the screen to find this article based upon the work of Ronald Cohen and Lars Stixrud at the Carnegie Institute of Washington, you will find that it no longer exists online. You have to use the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archives. So I don't think you want to type all of that, but teach yourself to use the Internet Archives, and you will find, if you just put in that URL at the bottom of the screen there, many different examples throughout time where this article was posted and updated and whatnot. Could an iron ball 1,500 miles across be a single crystal? This remarkable finding has stirred new thinking about Earth's inner core. So let's read. Hexagonal crystals have a unique directionality, says Stixrud, which must be aligned and oriented with Earth's spin axis for every crystal in the inner core. Okay, so look, here's a hexagonal crystal, and it certainly has a direction, right? But it's not, right now it's north. Right now it's east. Okay, so, but the idea is that when we have found some seismic data of the Earth's inner core, and, it's very far from us. We haven't dug that far, but we're shooting beams into the Earth from Earth's equator and from other places on Earth's surface, and noticing that based upon the rate at which the beams return back to us, right? This is how you do like ground penetrating radar, and this is penetrating as far down as we can go, that it's not like an equal sphere at the center of Earth, right? Which is what I was taught, that there's this like iron ball, right? Even it's funny that like, could an iron ball be a single crystal? Well, crystals, despite those beautiful crystal balls at the crystal shop, don't come in balls, right? They do come in different forms, like cubes. And there's a lot of theory about, well, what are these? Like, there's like nanocrystals down there. Like the seismic data seems to suggest that like a series of hexagonal crystals and cubic crystals kind of combine to create this directionally aligned like crystal core of the Earth. It's like an iron crystal. It's not a piece of quartz, And this is, we have a magnetic field as a result. All sorts of things can be said here, but what does this have to do with this question we're after? What in the heavens is the zodiac? Well, let me get right there. So I'll read on, or start from the beginning again. Hexagonal crystals have a unique directionality, and they must be aligned and oriented with Earth's spin axis for every crystal in the inner core. This led Stixrud and Cohen to try a computational experiment. If all crystals must point in the same direction, why not one big crystal? The results, published in Science, offer the simplest, most convincing explanation yet put forward for the observed seismic data and have stirred new thinking about the inner core. Could an iron ball 1,500 miles across be a single crystal? Unheard of until this work. The idea has prompted realization that the temperature pressure extremes of the inner core offer ideal conditions for crystal growth. So, why do I have to go back to the Internet Archives or the Wayback Machine to even find this article if it was published in Science? I mean, maybe the data has been updated in such a way that they've proved this idea wrong. I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to track down what these cats, Stixrud and Cohen, are up to now. I think it's Stixrud who works at UCLA. Maybe this is just they proved it wrong. Maybe it's been suppressed. I don't know. But it just resonates so beautifully with a potential answer to the problem of why does tropical astrology work? Like, I've seen that it does. And I don't think we have to know, like, what is the source of the tropical zodiac to answer or to work with tropical astrology. You just have some faith in it. Call it seasonal, do whatever you want to do, but I'm after these questions. If it's not constellational, and it's not, if it's not even based upon the stars, because that changes throughout the great ages, so it's not. If it's not even seasonal, it can't be if it works in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere alike, or even in Alaska and California at the same time. What in the heavens is it? And while this certainly would not be to scale, it might look a little bit ridiculous, the idea that Earth, and I will suggest all planets, have this regular hexagonal crystal core, this resonates. This would work. And I actually feel that if we do ask this question and find some answers, then we might be able to get to an energy source that I'm imagine the ancients were tapping into. And instead of digging up earth and burning, we can just tap into some of the forces that result from having this like hexagonal crystal at the core, but tilted in respect to our orbital plane. Because the way that's going to make this 12-sided structure, okay, how can I call a 6-sided structure 12-sided? Like, that's a little bit ridiculous. Well, the field that's going to come off of a regular hexagon, I think, is much more beautifully described by the seed of life, which has a very clear 12-ness pattern. All right. So in my point of view, here we're looking at Earth. You see the spin axis is leaning down towards the bottom of the screen. That means down is north. Why would I draw it that way? Because that's typically how we draw what we call the natural zodiac, which I feel is emerging from the crystal core of Earth outwards, not coming to Earth from the stars. In a sense, and it doesn't matter, it's like Libra is where Libra is. But I'm after and very interested in the question, just what in the heavens is the zodiac? And I'm finding it's actually, we're looking in the wrong direction. That's where we can experience visibly where planets are moving through the stars that are currently aligned to the signs. But I believe the signs are happening because of something beneath our feet, this regular hexagonal crystal core. So that when moon moves through the signs every month, it's just like ding, ding, ding. It's just going through like these different tones. It's moving against this crystal core, which stays aligned to the cardinal direction. Earth is spinning about it. This is the Earth should be spinning 27 1/3 times when the moon gets around, so that kind of bothers me. But either way, like Earth is spinning on the surface locations of Earth are spinning about that core, just as the moon is traveling through those 12 sides of the figure. As Earth is orbiting the sun moves through those 12 sides. As we see Jupiter getting around, it moves through these 12 sides, right? And it's something at the core of Earth. That's why of the many, many globes in this house, this is my favorite one. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, and I'm wondering if it's not just something that looks cool, but I'm wondering if they're showing us a bit of the mysteries. So a regular hexagon, I mean, it's a 6-sided figure, not a 12-sided figure. There's 6 sides and 6 points, and I would say that will kind of reflect the two polarities of the kind of inner signs and outer signs. But again, if I weave circles about these places, I can create like a zodiac in that way. And it's one of the reasons why I feel that the star student should, like in the old ways, the student of astronomy, number in time and space, must study number itself, and number in space, geometry, number in time, harmony, and not just in nerdy ways, but also in the mystical way too, quantity and quality. So here we see our 12 sign zodiac, and I'm just going to show you the solar serpent. Imagine these signs are emanating from Earth along the ecliptic plane through Earth's tropics, right, along the plane of the year. The interaction of this kind of like inner hexagonal core of Earth, which would be on the equator plane, and the way that that plane interfaces with the tilted plane of the ecliptic is going to create these like energetic stresses, tensions. I don't have the accurate words for it, but it's basically, for me, I can feel into why it creates the nature of these 12 different signs. So every year as Earth is orbiting the sun, we experiencing sun, climbing north through Aries, Taurus, and Gemini to the northern extreme, and then coming back down, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, crossing south, Libra, Scorpio, Sag to the southern extreme of Capricorn, and Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, coming back to the east point. The Pisces Aries cusp is due east, not of New York or LA, but of the center of the Earth where we are all one, and that is why it is where geocentric we measure the placement of the planets in the signs from. We are experiencing our planet Earth's experience of the heavenly happenings. That is geocentric. Astrology and geocentric and tropical astrology, I think, are very similar things. It's not about what in the heavens is the zodiac, because, my friends, I am convinced the tropical zodiac is something just beneath our feet. Okay, now the truth that the Pisces Aries cusp is due east for us is why the Aries wheel can be called the natural zodiac. I'm realizing I'm bringing these in from the School of Earth Astrology, the 12 maps I call them. And maybe it would have been better to show the horizon here aligned not to like 15 Aries, which is here shown, but rather to the Pisces Aries cusp. It would have definitely been better shown. But I want to honor this, because we'll talk about whole sign astrology. Maybe you're aware of whole sign house systems. I feel like, let me open a chart and I'll show you an issue with them. Okay, so this is right now where I sit in Richmond, California. It's 10:03 a.m. on December 9th, 2022. Capricorn is rising, Pluto is rising, at least the degree that Pluto projects to is rising. Let's leave Astro Gold astrology software and go to Stellarium astronomy software for a second. Here, because Pluto was demoted, sadly, I need to search for Pluto so Pluto can be seen. And actually, Pluto has not yet risen locally, but the degree that Pluto projects to has. So this is what we're doing in astrology, is we're looking at where the planet is aligned to the ecliptic plane, right? So that's called in Zodiaco versus in Mundo, and that's a kind of a different story for a different time. But what I want to show you is that we wouldn't be able to see this right now. It's hard to see the houses by day. In house systems in astrology, we're trying to kind of correspond the primary motion, which is the spinning of the Earth and therefore the spinning of the heavens, with the secondary motion. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my feet back on the ground. That thing's out of control. We're quitting and we're going back in. Don't give up. All right, let's move through time. So this is the primary motion, right? The sun will come up and reach its highest height at midday. In the northern hemisphere, at least all locations north of the Tropic of Cancer, that happens south. The sun souths at midday, halfway between sunrise and sunset. It's not noon on your clock, it's true noon. It's local apparent noon. And then, of course, the sun will set in the west. Not due west, only 2 degrees of the zodiac due. The equinox points. Here's Jupiter reaching at the midheaven, and now Jupiter's going to come down. Okay, so this primary motion, which is the spinning of Earth about this plane, the equator, right, creates this experience of the planets rising and reaching and resting and rooting, moving through the houses. Whereas the secondary motion will show them moving the other way, like the sun is going to move from the scorpion to the archer to the sea goat, etc. Okay? And what most house systems do, like what we call quadrant house systems, is they take everything between the ascendant here in the midheaven, and they call that the fourth quadrant, the 10th, 11th, and 12th houses. And everything between the midheaven and the descendant, and they call that the third quadrant, the 9th, 8th, and 7th houses, okay? The houses 6, 5, 4, and 3, 2, 1 are always down below the ground. So there's many ways to attempt to divide the arc between the angles, like between the ascendant and the midheaven, to get houses 12, 11, 10. Like Regiomontanus house systems projects divisions of the equator, which is the plane of our spin, our primary motion, and therefore which carries the planets through the houses. Projecting divisions of the equator onto the ecliptic is one of the tools that is utilized by Regiomontanus and Koch-Gau house system division. I like porphyry houses, which just simply take that degree of the MC, which is where the ecliptic crosses the meridian, the north-south great circle, dividing east going up and west going down, right? If you take between the MC and the ascendant, which is where the ecliptic or the zodiac intersects the eastern horizon, and just divide that into 3 equal slices, you get this porphyry house system. So it's simple, elegant, therefore ancient, although I'll use many different house systems. And one of the house systems I use a ton is the whole sign house system. We'll wrap up here. Or no, I'll just use an example of why it's a thing. Because look, the whole sign house system is the least astronomical. Okay, so I'm going to push a whole sign house system button here, and we're going to see that the ascendant, like right now where the ecliptic intersects the eastern horizon, it's well south of east, is 28 degrees tropical Capricorn. But when we go whole sign here, suddenly it's just like the ascendant is down here. Like these models that we're using to describe the heavens from our local experience, these astrological chart wheels, this modern approach, they're so beautiful because they show me the ground that I'm standing on, right? They show me what's going up to the meridian, then what's coming down. They show me in this kind of display that the midheaven is not the highest part of the ecliptic. That's always square, the ascendant, descendant. Like they have a lot to show. It's a very beautiful, simple model of the local experience of the heavens. And once you learn how to unpack this, that has so much to display and teach. And yet whole sign houses, which are incredibly not astronomical, you know what, maybe they are. Because if, as I suggested before, we're here on the surface of Earth but spinning about this like hexagonal crystal core, which is fixed to the direction, so it's not spinning, we're on the surface of Earth spinning about it, right? Because I'm spinning here, I just moved from this rising sign to this rising sign, then this rising sign. Like this does not have to be whole sign houses, not astronomical, just because it doesn't reflect my surface experience of the astronomy. And you know, I always cast house systems that show the horizon. Like I want to, like, you know, think globally but act locally. I want to see locally, but I also want to be able to see globally. And there is a good amount of chance that if this answer to the question, what in the heavens is the zodiac, is no, it's actually something beneath our feet, like some, you know, regular hexagonal core, then the whole sign house system is actually quite astronomical. And we can just define where the 12 signs are in respect to the horoscope, which is the ascending sign. So Capricorn's ascending here. In a sense, it seems like whole sign houses don't care if it's 1 degree Capricorn rising or 29. It's just Capricorn is Capricorn, but there's something to that, because it might be then when the Earth spins to like the next part of this 12 energetic 12 energy field shape at the core of the Earth, that the next rising sign is going to go, and then everything can kind of be expressed from that. There are, again, some serious local issues with the whole sign house system. Like, it kind of takes the ground out from beneath my feet. It's like not such a great image of surface experience of astronomy. Or let me show you a really good example here. Let's go back a day, and the moon would be back in Gemini. All right, well, watch what happens as I move through the hours. And you're just going to see, now I'm going to show this first in like a quadrant house system. And we'll just see the clockwise spinning of the sky. Now, importantly, that clockwise motion is the spinning of the sky in the northern hemisphere. And the chart wheel is based upon that northern hemisphere experience. If you're in the southern hemisphere, the midheaven's in the north. And so the east to west motion of the heavens, and when you're looking towards the ecliptic in the north, is going to be counterclockwise. But either way, here we're going to look at this primary motion. So the sun just culminated, now it's coming down through the 9th, and then we'll go down to the 8th and really start moving towards that death of the day where the sun sets in the west and we move from day to night, right? Like, this is the primary motion. It's sadly so often misunderstood by astrology, but it's, the houses result from the primary motion. And the planets moving through the houses are about primary motion, while moving through the signs are about secondary motion. Okay, so I want to stop right here for a second. So we see Jupiter in the last degree of Pisces, the moon here in the late degrees of Gemini. This is shortly after the recent Mars occultation on December 7th here locally. And what I want to show you is this. I'm going to go from this feet on the ground quadrant house system to the whole sign house system. Which again, for me, it's like, okay, in your local experience, like where you are on the surface of Earth, you're spinning currently over that part of the 12 zone energy device at the core called Cancer. And until Leo starts rising, like, this is the map. So we're going to talk about these 12 sign maps, all right? So, but let me go here through, the moon moves about a degree every 2 hours. So about, can I just do that? Half a degree per hour. So we'll go in an hour later, it'll be at like 28 and then 28 and a half. Well, now Leo's rising. So if you just see like this weird kind of jump, let me do it by minutes as we move from Cancer rising to Leo rising. Like, it just doesn't describe the actual spinning of the sky. You get these like jerk motions like that, right? But here's the weirdest one, which is when like the moon changes signs here, we're going to see a very strange thing that can never happen on Earth. Okay, so let me just go 1 minute at a time. Virgo's rising, and here's the moon in Gemini. And then as I bring the moon to Cancer, instead of the primary motion, which will always take anything from the 10th house to the midheaven, then the 9th house, like in a quadrant chart wheel, but I can never go from the 10th house to the 11th house. In whole sign houses, that can happen. Watch this, moon moving from Gemini to Cancer, and so it's going to move from the 10th to the 11th in the Virgo whole sign chart. Something here doesn't quite compute. And yet, I will say there is a like core truth to whole sign astrology, like literally the core truth, right? And I mean, much of these energies of the houses as we teach them today, like in modern astrology, the houses and the signs have been so conflated. Like the idea that Aries is the first, Well, not when Taurus is rising, it's not. Or like, Capricorn is the 10th sign and therefore is your work. No, not when Gemini is rising, it's not. Pisces is the 10th sign. But there is something here, and I think it's because, again, the Pisces Aries cusp is due east from the center of the earth and therefore works like a global ascendant. And that has something to do with the crystal core. That I'll say, like, the tropical signs are our planet Earth's houses. So there is a correspondence between Sagittarius sign and the 9th house, pilgrimage, quest, journey, study, truth. That there's something between the Scorpio sign of death and rebirth that relates to the 8th. It's hard to say if we're just kind of projecting the nature of the 8th house, which has long been known and studied as a place of death and rebirth, and saying, okay, well, that's what Scorpio is because it's 8th from the equinox point due east of the center of Earth. Like, it's a really tricky thing. All right. There is something in the correspondence here. We don't want to get locked into it because, of course, Aries only rises not even for a 12th of the day in the northern hemisphere. Aries rises quite quickly, actually. Let's go, we ended up in that other thing to Virgo rising, and I'll just give an example here, right? So what is the place of universities? It's the 9th, right? What is the place of children, passions, and what we give birth to? It's the 5th. Well, think about this, like Virgo rising, and this has been a very Virgo journey today, hasn't it? It's about the particular, it's the sacred. We want to honor like all the pieces of the system orientation, and that kind of engineering essence can be a very Virgo thing. I like to call it the science of the earth, the leaf that reaches for the light and does the inner work. There's a lot of service orientation in Virgo, as we know. You probably hear the dog barking. She just believes that's her service in this moment. Anyway, what does Virgo have to be very passionate about? And the idea is order. Like, we're studying the particulars so that we can like create and give birth to like a more beautiful and better order and even tradition. That's like Virgo birthing Capricorn. To do that, we must study in the university of the beautiful and the sensual and the earthly. Like, we want to use our senses. So look at how Taurus is the 9th for the Virgo path or the Virgo map. I like to call the second needs. Yes, it's resources and all these things. And I will say Virgo needs Libra. It needs balance. It needs harmony. However, this is in there shown here in the gray. If you've studied your astrology, you know that the 12th and 8th and 6th and 2nd places are inconjunct. They're said to be blind to the first, or the first is blind to them. And there's some ish there, right? Like, the needs that drive us are so often unseen, and that can cause inherently this tension. Anyway, Virgo, however, this walk, this path, this study of sacred space on one side, but study of systems and like the data and what makes things tick, and adventures like this. Like, why should I be concerned with the Zodiac? As it works, just use it. Fine. But again, I'm convinced that if we can actually understand more about this crystal core, we could tap into it for like Earth first technology and be in resonance with our planet instead of burning her, so that I can, broadcast a video on the space waves like this, whatever. Okay. So Virgo, I'll say, has this inherent need for balance. Look at Scorpios in the 3rd of Virgo map, right? So the 3rd we often express as communication. Where do we learn that from? Our siblings and our neighbors, but it's also traditionally the house of the goddess and short distance journeys. But I think tools is a really kind of universal word. Like, communication is a tool that we develop so that we can express the needs that we have so we can survive. Okay. Well, look at Virgo, like if we're really into the particulars and, keeping the temple tidy and we can see what's out of place, like that's fine. But sometimes we're not meant to say each of those things to anyone that we come across. So that kind of Scorpio stinging tongue can be part of the Virgo map and something that has to be learned. We want to speak with power. We want to be careful not to speak in such a way that hurts, Sagittarius is at the root. Really, if Virgo is this path of honoring like the the details of the system, well, look at how that thing is rooted actually in a quest for truth, right? It gives birth to Capricorn, to this like, to foundations, to order, right? How is Aquarius the sixth of Virgo? And I wrote practice there, and that's great, but we also know that the six is health and traditionally illness. And so with the six, I always like to say, how would that make this in this path's idea, why would that make it sick? Well, Virgo, I think very importantly, needs us to get in touch with the body mind, with the earth consciousness, and sometimes the rational way of the Aquarius design, which can be in the head, might feel like a bit of an illness. But I don't know. I find that Aquarius, which has a very humanitarian energy, we often say. And that doesn't necessarily mean a service orientation, but we can certainly go there. It's kind of hard to see why, in this regard, Aquarius would express as the sixth of Virgo, or conversely, Virgo as the eighth of Aquarius. Because the eighth, I always say, like, why is this something you feel like you must slay? There is something here, I think, more in that essence of sacred space. I really feel like Virgo is a study of the sacred and like how I connect to spirit, whatever that means to me, right? And therefore, in that sacred space ideal of Aquarius, like that sacred space path and ideal of Virgo, community, which can be an Aquarius correspondence, feels like an illness, right? Like, I can't have sacred space if I'm surrounded by a gazillion. Like, I can't even do my own work, maybe, if I'm too present with a large community. So a question there. Like, this is how I love to study astrology and teach astrology and earth astrology. Pisces is the seventh of Virgo. Like, they're just two sides of one pole. The particular and the whole doesn't quite cover it there. Virgo is very much about the particular, and that journey into finding the sacred and spirit is in every cell of my body. For Pisces, it's like, I am but a cell of the grand uni being, but that's not opposite in ways that they have nothing to do with one another. They're literally two sides of one thing, just as hot and cold are two sides of temperature. Pisces will help Virgo in that relationship come into a more kind of heart-centered and feelings basis, right? But there's an inherent challenge always in the 1-7 relationship. So why would Aries be something that Virgo feels like it must slay? That's always how I love to ask about, why is this sign the eighth of any particular map? So in the Virgo map, Aries is the eighth of Virgo, and I'll say the eighth is like what we feel like we must slay, but is where we will be reborn. Like, I'm Gemini rising, the eighth in the Gemini map is Capricorn. So to stay young and have fun and just follow the shiny thing, which is kind of the Gemini path, sometimes it feels like we must slay responsibility. Like, I have things I need to do right now, and I was like, oh, I know, I want to like share some of these thoughts with the world, right? So I'm going live. Capricorn is where we can be reborn. In fact, it helps me serve to express this information, which can be very creative information. Look how Leo is the third for Gemini. If I do honor some structure and put together, and it takes me a lot of time to put together slides like this and the animations to express the astronomy. So me talking about the crystal core of Earth doesn't seem just like some, new age fantasy. Like, there's some roots to this. There's some Carnegie Institute of Washington science, like, at the root of that. All right. So Virgo feels like it must slay Aries. Why? Well, because Virgo has that service orientation, and it might see Aries as a selfish thing. Now, Aries is not. Aries is selfness, not selfish. But, Virgo might feel that service orientation suggests that Aries is something that it just can't do. However, again, it will be where it's reborn. And there's an astronomical connection between Aries and Virgo as signs, which is called antishkia or antisha, you may know, like opposite shadow or the same shadow. And well, that's a tale for another time. But the first and the eighth are actually more inherently linked through this astronomical gift in the Virgo map than in others. Taurus is a school for Virgo. Yes, like Virgo wants to be about earth, embodiment, life. So we must study there if we really want to see the systems of the thing. And you hear that term, the beautiful mind. Virgo is said to be a Gemini, mercurial sign, Mercury's nocturnal sign. There is something about studying in beauty, right? We so often hear about the great eureka moment happened as a result of someone being out in nature and witnessing a fallen apple or something like that. I see that there. Virgo and Gemini are linked through Mercury, and so Virgo map has a link between the 1st and the 10th. Now, the 10th itself has a very service orientation. I have it written here as legend, which I love, but it's also your legacy, reputation, but very importantly, your vocation, making a loving. Why is Gemini the 10th of Virgo? Well, that study of the systems and of the sacred also asks us to come to expression. And somehow I think we want to find a playful, that can be a Gemini and Leo word, legend out of this thing. But Leo is hidden in the 12th. Why would Virgo feel like it needs to hide Leo away? In service, there's no time to play, right? We have to take this thing more seriously. Well, the 12th is also the mysteries. But I skipped team. So Virgo path, we want Cancer on the 11th, right? Communities of nurturing, which are not only necessary if we want to be in service, but are also necessary if we are, because healer, remember to be healed. Each map has its own 12-sign design of the crystal core. Thanks for spending some time with me today as we explore the Earth astronomy and Earth astrology of the thing. If you've received something here and you would like to give something back, it will be received with gratitude. You will find at GeminiBrett.com, a tip jar. There's donate buttons somewhere along the way. There's one. There's a mailing list. Please sign up so I can let you know about things like my coming, the mysteries of Christmas and other solstice holidays class we're going to do sometime. I'm not sure of the date yet, but I'm going to show you, the wreath and the Christmas tree and the light and the star on top and the ornaments and the dreidel and the Hanukkah, which you may know as the menorah, Santa's sleigh and the red-nosed reindeer. Like, there are correspondences and the primary, secondary motions and the stars of our sky. It's a really fun jam where I get to convey much of these secrets of sacred astronomy, but in a playful way that you can pass along. Tomorrow, if you're watching this live, I will be part of a panel exploring the astrology of 2023. At Astrology Hub. If you want to register for the free event, which happens at 3 p.m. Saturday, December 10th, please go to this link, astrologyhub.com/2023 Brett with 2 T's, Gemini T's. That will give me some extra high fives. Would love to see you there. Speaking of Astrology Hub, if you go to the courses page on my website, you can learn more about the golden year of Earth astrology. We're just about through, but there's probably 100 hours of deep, beautiful presented astrology waiting for you. Come on in and receive 36 lessons of astrology, sacred geometry, embodiment practices, and so much more, like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of recorded study groups. That's where I'm off to very soon. But at the bottom here, you will find the Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers Level 1 course. It's really level 1 through 12. It's a deep dive. I will be teaching more simple sacred astronomy, or I guess astronomy for astrologers, for the Organization for Professional Astrology, OPA, this year of 2023, also for Kepler College. But if you want to take a deep dive and you're good at tuning into pre-recorded material, sign up at this Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers course here at my courses page at GeminiBrett.com, and you're going to take quite a journey and learn a lot more about some of the things I shared today, but piece by piece, so you can put the system together, which is the Virgo way, right? Astrology sessions here, link in my tab again if you want to do a one-on-one thing. I'm offering a very short special I have for some time. I love tuning in just to a question or letting you see what I do with the sacred science of astrology. But I'm also a teacher, so I like to build custom curriculum for individuals. Would love to do that with you if you're in the study, or come into the school if you want to do that more in group. Song of the Soul, again, Eric Deutsch and I create songs. I do the astrology, turn it into harmony. He creates a beautiful song of your birth chart, or one for a loved one if you want to give a gift at this time. Your presence is a present to me, but it would sure help if you could leave a comment on this video. Give it a like, share it with someone you like, if you feel that they would be into this material again. And again, if you like to give anything back for what you're receiving here, absolutely no expectations, but any donation would be received with deep gratitude. You can find me at geminibrett.com. Have a wonderful day. I will see you in space.